Okay, good. Welcome to the class number 70 of Faith and Calm. Repeat. Because we need to get this idea down clearly. And I'll tell you why. I mean, Rosh Hashanah is coming. Yeah, there you go. Now I try to stuck fear into everybody's heart. No more Faith and Calm. No. Rosh Hashanah is good. Rosh Hashanah is very good. Hopefully we'll understand it from this class a little bit about Rosh Hashanah, why it's good. I think part of the reason why, and a lot of these ideas that I'm going to say tonight, you can find in Simon Jacobs' book, 60 Days. And he actually tells a cute story at the beginning why he wrote that book. He says, because mostly what we know about Jewish holidays is about the how. Do this, you eat this, you eat the cake, you eat the honey and so forth. The mechanical process, but the heart and the soul of the holiday, somehow the message of it is lost. And he says that, he was two little cute stories. One of them is about the founder of the birthright movement, Edgar Bronfman Sr. And when he was a little boy, he went into synagogue with his father, Rosh Hashanah, and they were all reading the Machzor. And he says, asked his father, can you tell me what it's saying in here in the book? And his father said, no, I have no idea what the Machzor is about. I can read the words, but I don't know what it's about. And he said, and by the way, also nobody else here knows anything about it either. And he was so turned off, he said, that he didn't go into another synagogue for 40 years. Something happened anyway, and he went back in, and he decided that he was going to do something about it. Now, he's not a religious guy, but he's a very wealthy. Edgar Bronfman. Bronf means whiskey. He owns all these Canadian whiskey companies. And he's founded this idea of Seagram's, right? Yeah. And he started the birthright movement. He paid for it. It says it's come from the Israeli government, but it's his money.
Bernice, can you hear?
Excuse me? Yes, I can. I went home and got my hearing aids.
You can hear him, yeah?
Very well.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the other one was, he said that there was a girl who came to him once and said, that she was very turned off and about the synagogue, and she wanted to find a place which actually would be somewhere meaningful services. So he sent her off to the Karl Bach Shul. He figured, there it's non-judgmental. He doesn't really know anywhere else to send her to and so forth. And he thought she'd be okay. She said it was okay, but, singing and all this other kind of stuff, but it really didn't inspire her. So the next year she came back and she said, I decided I'm not going to synagogue for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur this year. I'm going to stay home. I'm into Zen Buddhism. I found a new book with some poems in it, and I'm going to sit home and do my own thing. Simmons said, I could have two different kind of reactions. Either I could go, oh my God, Zen Buddhism has got it over Judaism, and but she didn't say it. She said it sincerely. She wasn't like being cynical about it. And then the other thing is, he could have said, yeah, it's wonderful. But he said, there has to be something in the heart and soul of Rosh Hashanah, why Jews have done this for 3,000 years, that inspires you. So what is it that inspires you? So he had to sit down, he had to do his own research, and he came away with this following point, which is that it's mostly from the Rebbe's teachings, but other Hasidic masters, and that is that, what is Rosh Hashanah? Well, it's a new year. What does new year mean? New year means it's a new lease on life. A chance for changing over a new leaf. What happens after a while, after we've lived for a while, is we figure that, what's going to be new? The doctor's going to be a doctor, the lawyer's going to be a lawyer, the cat's going to remain a cat, and life goes on, and the monotony of living just seems like there's really no escape from our situation, that it just keeps going on and on and on. When is the light going to come on? When is things going to change? That optimism and that enthusiasm that you had as a child, that you could change yourself and change the world, where does that go? Where does that energy go? As Henry Thoreau wrote, most people live lives of quiet desperation. Because, it's really, is there really any hope? Is there any chance for transformation? And the whole theme of the high holidays is, guess what? Yes. No matter how hopeless it is or how bad it's been before, this is basically the gift of this season. If we take advantage of it, we have to prepare for it. Why do we say that? Okay, so the reason why we say that is because historically, the story, why do we have this holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? When did it happen? So, as we know from Jewish history, the Jews left Egypt, right? 40 days later, they went to Har Sinai, right? Okay, that everybody remembers. And Moses went up to the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments. Came down with the Luchos 40 days later, which was the 17th of Tammuz. And it wasn't a happy day. Still not a happy day. The 17th of Tammuz is a fast because the Jews had built a golden calf. And it was a betrayal. And God said, listen, I'm getting rid of these people. I'm going to restart over from scratch again. I can't, and basically they did a complete violation of the trust. And like in a marriage, when the trust is lost, the marriage also falls apart too. Or any other relationship, in a business relationship, in a partnership, if there's two people and they were trusting each other and one messes around with the other one, usually it's goodbye and, I'll see you later. I mean, I don't need this anymore. I'm getting out of it, and so forth. So that's what God was telling Moses. It's over. And Moses said, no, I'm coming back on the mountain and I'm going to charge up there and I'm going to get forgiveness for the Jews. So he went up for another 40 days. And then what did he come back down again? The first day of Elul. God had still not forgiven the Jews, but now he went back for a third time. 40 days after that, he finally got forgiveness for the Jews. And that is why on Yom Kippur, which is 40 days after the first day of Elul, is the renewal and the recommitment of God to the Jews and the Jews to Hashem. And that is why we say many times in the davening of Yom Kippur, Salachti k'dvarecha, I have forgiven you as you said. Meaning God is saying to Moses and to the Jewish people, I'm back in this relationship. The question is, how did Moses know that he was able to actually reach to Hashem? How do you repair this thing called trust and faith and calm and belief in Hashem? How do you make it, that he's, how do you get that back? I mean, obviously there was a complete break in the whole situation. But to understand this, we have to understand something else also deep about our psychology and who we are. Sometimes a person, you do something to a person and they retract and they go back into themselves and they pull themselves out of the relationship and you can't reach them. A friend stops calling you, they stop calling back, you can't reach them on the phone and something of that sort. But you want to reconnect with that person. What do? You keep trying to call, you keep trying to reach the person. Or if a person ends up in a, for God forbid, in a comatose state, oftentimes the family members don't give up. They come the day after day after day. And afterwards, when the person wakes up, they find out that the person who was there in the hospital bed actually knew what was going on. They just couldn't react. They couldn't reach. But they weren't still there. They were somewhere inside, and it was just buried underneath layers and layers of stuff. But there is this connection. They are still there. But it's just very hard to reconnect. Moses said the same thing with God, because why? Because when you relate to another person, what do you really relate to? You relate to the physical look of the person, what their hands are, their arms or something. You're in love with the other person. What do you feel? What is it? What is real? What is real? What is the real reality of the world? Is it what we see with our eyes and with our ears, or is it the deeper thing? Is it something deeper? We say yes, of course. The real things in this world is the things related to the soul. I mean, that I love some other person, that I fear. I mean, the reactions of the spirit are more powerful and more real, really, than what we usually think about during the course of the year, which is the physical. The same thing is with the animation of the world. It's God who's really the reality of the world. It expresses itself in the physical, but it's really the heart of the soul of the thing. And the soul is always there. So Moses went up onto the mountain and he was basically saying, listen, God, and so forth. He had a debate with God. He was better sort of post-predict. He said, God, he says, listen, why did you create the Jewish people? He said, because I wanted them to transform the world. I'm just paraphrasing the dialogue that went on during those 40 days. And then, so Moses said, okay, fine, that's it. And I see that they're not doing their job. But did you decide to make them perfect? God said, no, actually, that was not the plan. I didn't want to make them perfect. So if they're not perfect, they're going to mess up, right? So God says, yeah. So if they mess up, you have to do something. So God says, no, I created it like it's like the natural universe. You put your hand in fire, you get burnt. They mess up, they get, they go off the path, and then they're not useful, and they're not useful anymore to the plan. So Moses said, no, you have to create something new. You have to create a new creation that never existed before, which is the idea of tshuva. Tshuva is the ability to go back in time, retrospectively, and to reconnect to a place that's higher than you ever were before. That's what tshuva is all about. We can, if we stretch ourselves and if we work on ourselves and we dig in and we do a real, an honest, faithful accounting of who we are, then we're able to actually repair the relationship. And when God sees this, or when anybody in your relationship that you're with it sees, you actually have that sincerity and you're willing to go back into your basic core, that rekindles the relationship. To explain this in a simple story, I'll tell you the following. The story that's about Yom Kippur is told many times. You've probably seen it. It's in Chassidim. I probably maybe told it last year. I'm sorry if I told it last year. The story is as follows. Rabbi Elimelech of Luzansk lived in the time of the prior to the Alter Rebbe. He was a student of the Baal Shem Tov. He had a chassid, and the chassid was nudging him. You know what nudging means? He was nudging him. Said, Rebbe, I want to see how you prepare for Yom Kippur. I want to see how you do kapparas. Everybody knows what kapparas is. Now they take dollars, money, but then traditionally you take a hen, or if you're a woman, or a rooster if you're a man, and you take it and you say you gently pass it over your head 3 times. You have a check-in in front of you, and while you're swinging it around,
You're not swinging it. You're gently.
Everybody, okay. First, we're explaining it to the the rest of the community here. At least everybody knows you gently take it and you pass it over your head 3 times. Okay, without it pooping on your hat. Okay, that's very key. Maybe some people, they wear a raincoat when they go. Some people they're worried about their sheitel, and so forth. And they say, "Zeh kaporasi, zeh tumarasi, zeh halafasi." This is my exchange. This is my expiation. This is my kapara, forgiveness for me, atonement for me. But thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so. But he says, listen, I do it the same way you do. I take a rooster, it's a white rooster, and there's nothing to see. It's the same thing. This chassid wasn't satisfied. He says, Rebbe, I got to see how you do it. He said, so his Rebbe, Rabbi Melech Lejans, tells him, he says, listen, you want to see how it's really done? I'm going to send you somewhere. Go to this town, go to this inn, and there you see the innkeeper. And in the inn, you will see how kapparas really is supposed to be done. Okay. The guy goes, he travels, he comes to an inn, and in an inn, in those times there, the inn was the local place where everybody used to gather. Jews, non-Jews, there was tables, there was drinking. He comes in, he doesn't see anything exciting. In fact, it looks pretty bad, because there's a lot of non-Jews sitting there drinking and playing cards, and a lot of smoke and cigarettes. He hides in the back and he says, but my Rebbe sent me, so I'm going to see what happens. He waits, it gets very late at night, and finally the innkeeper comes out and he says, time to close down. He kicks out the drunks. He opens up the windows. He airs out the place. He cleans up somewhat. And this guy is still hiding in the back. The innkeeper then sits down at a big table and he calls out to his wife. And he says, Yentel Braina, says, bring out my ledgers. You know what a ledger is? A ledger is a big book. He goes, what ledgers? He says, those are the 2 ones behind the counter, the 2 big ledgers. So she brings out these 2 big ledgers and he sits down and he starts reading through these ledgers. And the first ledger is all the things that he promised to God in the last year that he said that he was going to do. And he starts reading them. I was going to improve myself. I was going to be more kind to my wife. And instead, look what I did. I did this wrong. I yelled at her. I got mad at the kids. I gave them a patch. I was late for shul this day. He starts reading through it. They're not very exciting things, and they're not very big things. But he's going through and he's reading this, and he really feels bad, and he's crying and he's weeping, and as he reads through, the stuff, everything that he did wrong during the course of the year, and he said, I promised I'd be better, and look how I behaved. I really didn't do it. I really didn't behave properly. Then he starts opening up the second one. In the second book, it's all the things that happened to him. In other words, the first one day, he happened to be milking the cow, and the cow hit him and kicked him, and he was in bed for a week. And then his wife got sick, and and the doctors were despairing. And every kind of service that happened, the pirates and the money and this and that, all these different kinds of terrible things that happened to him in the course of the year. And he's reading through this, and he's crying as he remembers all the things that happened. He finishes reading the second one. He takes the two books, he ties a cord around both of them, he starts swinging it over his head and saying, Zeh, kaparasi, zeh, tumarasi, zeh, chalapasi. He says, listen, Abishter. He says, listen, last year I promised I would be better, and look what I did. Last year, though, I asked you in Rosh Hashanah and Kippur for a better year, and look what happened. He says, you know what, Abishter, let's be honest about this. He says, I wasn't perfect, and you didn't treat me perfectly either, and so forth. Let's call it even. Let's clean the slate. And so he takes the two books and says, he swings it over his head, and the chassid in the back is watching the scene, and he gets it. He sees now what his Rebbe sent him for. Why? Because this wasn't a joke. This is the thing. This is the feeling. This is the idea of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Yeah. And this is what Moses was also cluing into. He says, listen, they're not perfect, and that's intentional. They weren't supposed to be perfect. They were supposed to be sent to clean up the dirty parts of the world, and in order to do that, they have to become part of the world, and they have to get into it. And because of that, sometimes they get distracted by the nature of the world. So we're not perfect. But that's part of our mission. That itself is what we're supposed to be doing, and then the struggles are also part of our mission in this world. So you know what? We're gonna clean the slate. What does it mean, clean the slate? We're gonna be honest with who we are. We're gonna realize that we have a soul, and that God is never giving up with us because He can't. He's part of us. He can never separate Himself with us. And no matter where we're at, and whatever we're suffering, and whatever struggles we're going through, it's Him. It's Him underneath all of this. And He's doing this in order to bring out a deeper level inside of ourselves. And we all find something much more powerful. As I said in the stories last Monday, that once when the Lubavitcher Rebbe had his heart attack, Dr. Weiss came over to him with a needle and wanted to take a blood sample. And he took the blood, and the Rebbe asked him a question. He said, you stuck him with the needle and he pulled out the blood. How did it come out? Was it because of the needle that the blood came out? Or was it because you pulled on the suction and you pulled it out? So the doctor says it's because I pulled and sucked out the blood. The Rebbe says, you know what you see from this? Says what? Sometimes the vacuum has a tremendous power. The feeling of void, the feeling of emptiness, the feeling of need can cause a tremendous amount, more than all the nice things that happen to us. It's a greater inspiration. It's a greater force for really doing the soul searching and the cleanup that we have to do. But that cleanup is a wonderful thing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's actually that God feels very close to us at this time. And that is what Elul is about. It's about the season where God is close to us. God is in the field. He's together with us. He's listening to us. He hears you better. It's time before Rosh Hashanah. He comes and he's listening and he's interested. And just to talk to him, about all the things that's going on. He's the best. His ear is always open. He never gets tired. He never says, okay, I've heard enough from you. I got to go somewhere else. The guy, can pray and pray and pray. And he never says, hey, I heard enough. You did. I give you. He never does that. He never says, stop, and so forth. He likes hearing from us. With that, we said we'd make this class a little shorter, so I'm going to turn it back over to my wife, and she's going to take you on the next stage of the journey.
Thank you, Hishkel.
That was very nice.
It was very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can
Haskell Shimon, you have to turn off the AC. Can you do it? Thank you. Because you won't be able to hear me over here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't like so much. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, good. So I want to add something to Haskell Shimon's story. Obviously, this whole dialogue between Moses and Hashem, it's not like Moses came up with a novelty and convinced Hashem. This is what Hashem wanted him to do, right? It was a setup. He needed Moshe to be the defender, and he needed Moshe to come up with this plea that Hashem should create something called teshuvah. And that's exactly, Moshe filled the bill. He did exactly what Hashem wanted him to do, which is to create the concept of teshuvah. And through teshuvah, we become entirely different people. If we don't mess up, we never get to do teshuvah, and teshuvah is a gem. Teshuvah is something. It's a tremendous gift, and you can go much higher than you would in a simple linear progression. So anyway, I wanted to just say a couple things that I always say when I start to speak. So very nice to see you, everybody, and very nice to see you, Bernice, in particular.
Thank you.
And what I wanted, how I begin is I say that number one, we have to remember, we have to drive it into our heads that we are in an extremely exciting time. Why are we in an extremely exciting time? Not because the world is going crazy and faster and faster as each month goes past, but rather because the Lubavitcher Rebbe told us in 1992 that the era of the redemption is starting to unfold. The entire human history is here for the era of redemption. This is the end goal, and it's the whole purpose of creation, and it's actually begun. And why am I excited that this man said this in 1992? Because this man made many, many, many public predictions that were astounding, and they all came true, every single one of them. And next week on Monday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Rebbe and his, his astounding prophecies. Yeah, the Rebbe told us that the Rebbe also hinted that he is Mashiach, and that the grave will have no dominion over the leader of the generation. So anyway, I also like to say that our souls were handpicked to be here at this time because we have an important role to play, every single one of us. And I also like to say that Hashem gave us the tools that we're going to need for this awesome job. He gave us the Torah. He gave us leaders like Moshe Rabbeinu, like the Rebbe in our time. And he gave us mitzvahs, which are our tools, our power tools. And finally, learning about Mashiach, learning about the amazing time we're in, actually speeds its unfolding. The Rebbe said there's no better tool to speed up the redemption than learning about it. So I want to say that, as Haskell Shimon said, we've entered the month of Elul. And Elul is an acronym, Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, for Ani Ladodi V'Dodi Li. I am for Hashem, and Hashem is for me. And if you notice the order of that, of Elul, it doesn't say Hashem is for me and hey, Hashem is for me, I'll be for him. No, it says I am for Hashem, and Hashem is for me. So, meaning at this time, there are different seasons in the year. At this season, it's our job, even if we don't feel like Hashem is showering us with presents, it's our job to put our foot forward, and then Hashem responds. That's the magic of this time of Elul. And one of my favorite rabbis in Crown Heights, Rabbi Yossi Paltiel, uses this analogy. I believe it's from him, that Hashem wants us to take the first step, but he is helping us subliminally from the background. Hashem is giving us tremendous spiritual help. It's called the 13 Meadows of Rakhmi. Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy are shining. They begin to shine in the month of Elul. And so there is strength available. And the analogy that Rabbi Paltiel uses is that if you were ever in an airport and you were on one of those moving sidewalks, and you see somebody who's not on the moving sidewalk, you're walking at the same pace, but you're going much faster. Elul is like the moving sidewalk. If you just daven, if you just do the ordinary stuff, you go much farther than you do at other times in the year. So every moment of Elul is precious. It's a precious time, and we get paid in a compounded interest for everything that we do now. So I want to go on to the title of this class is "What is Life," and I want to tell a story that there was the Rebbe from 1986 to 1992. The Rebbe every Sunday he gave out dollars. Why did he give out dollars? People would come to him. Most of the people, when they saw the Rebbe, they went totally mute. They could not open their mouth. The Rebbe would give them $1, and he would say, "This is for you." And the understanding was that you need to give $1 to charity. And the Rebbe blessed people with Hatzlacha v'bracha, success and blessing. And so, what was this thing with $1? The Rebbe said that when any two Jews get together, it should always bring a benefit to a third Jew. So the Rebbe was encouraging people to do tzedakah, to do charity. And meantime, thousands of people every Sunday came to the Rebbe. I had that great privilege. Sorry, I went with Simchava. And it was really an amazing, some other time, I think in an earlier session, I told the story of it. It's one of the most remarkable things that ever happened to me. And
And you're supposed to give that dollar that he gives you to tzedakah?
not that dollar. People kept that dollar and they gave a substitute to charity. And so anyway, one time in dollars, remember every Sunday, thousands of people, Jews and non-Jews, and all ages. And so anyway, one guy comes to the Rebbe in line, and he asked the Rebbe for blessings. He said, "Rebbe, really, I'm here. Thank you for the blessings, but really, I'm here because I have a neighbor. I have a fine neighbor, a fine person, a Jewish person. He has everything, Rebbe. He's married, he has children, he's wealthy, he has a boat, he can do whatever he wants. He has everything. Life is made in the shade for him. Life is incredible for him. But Rebbe, my friend, is suicidal, and I don't know what to do for him. I can't imagine what can I give this person." And the Rebbe looked at the man and he said, "Tell your friend this." And he said a Hebrew sentence, "Ein ani nevresi ela l'shamash eskoni." Tell your friend, every person has to say to themselves, "I was not created except to serve my master, except to serve my creator, to serve my master." What does that mean? Life has a lot of incredible perks. Life is full of interesting things, but the real heart of life, the fruit of life, the pearl of life, the sweetest thing in life is doing that which Hashem created you to do. If you're busy entertaining yourself nonstop, if you're busy running after recognition from other people, if you're busy running after thrills, if you're busy accumulating everything that you've always wanted to accumulate, you're missing, if that's all you're doing, you're missing the sweetest kernel of life. The sweetest kernel of life is to live your purpose, to find out what your purpose is and to live your purpose. And the only way to find out your purpose, I have to say, because people will think and think and think and think, but if you don't have Torah in your vocabulary, then your thoughts are not going to reach as far as they need to reach. So so that's what we're going for. We're going for that sweet kernel of serving Hashem by doing that which He brought us into this world to do. He picked every one of our, we were once a little egg in a body, and He decided that egg is getting fertilized because I have a plan for that egg, and that sperm and when they come together, and that person is going to have a purpose. So I want to tell just a few little stories because we're keeping it very short tonight, and and uh, and it's stories of people who relied on Hashem. Their dreams went up in smoke, and they relied on Hashem, and they threw themselves onto Hashem. And somehow, when you trust, when you trust God, things happen. Different things happen that would not happen if you didn't trust God. So the first story is told by a man named Rabbi Shlomo Bochner, and he is a Baba Hasid, and he started an incredible organization called Bonei Olam. Bonei Olam helps people pay for infertility treatments, or we should call it fertility treatments. People who have trouble with infertility. Fertility treatments are incredibly expensive. Now, we don't understand that in Massachusetts. If you have a problem in Massachusetts legislates that insurance has to pay for infertility treatments, but not so in very many other states, including, I think, New York. I don't know if New York has changed,
New York.
but it's phenomenally expensive, absolutely phenomenally expensive. Many years ago, decades ago, it was $10,000 a pop for infertility treatments. And today it's more than that. And there are doctors, specialists in the field, who take $250,000 to take your case. It's just, it's phenomenal.
Well,
So anyway, this man, Rabbi Shlomo Bochner and his wife, they suffered from infertility for 20 years, and the response in the early years, and in the early years of infertility treatment, and they decided after 20 years, we have so much expertise, we're going to use it for our friends, not for our friends, for the Jewish people. And now they run a $10 million budget a year helping people with these astronomical payments. And there was a couple who came to them, and I don't know how much the couple had done a lot, but now they needed help to keep going, and they wanted one last chance. They had tried and tried and tried, and nothing happened to them. But I guess they didn't have the funds to continue on their own, and so they came to Rabbi Bachman, and he got all their documents, all their stats, and he brought them to one of these big shot $250,000 doctors and showed him all the stuff. And the doctor said, "Don't do it. Don't fund this couple. This couple, their chances are nil. It's going to be a waste of money. Their chances are nil." But Rabbi Bochner is of the opinion that every couple deserves a chance. Every couple deserves a chance. And so he went for it, and the couple went for it. And their hopes were sky high because they did the Spitz thing, whatever was the most extraordinary thing you could do, they did. And at the end of the treatment, we went to the doctor, and the news was not good. Nothing had happened. Nothing had happened. And this was their last chance. This was, the last bucks, their last everything, their last chance. And nobody would take them because their chances were so nil after that. So they drove home. Their hearts were broken. They drove home. And the husband let the wife out at home. And he said, I'll be back in a while. I'm not settled. I can't go into the house yet. And so he drove around for hours and hours and hours. And after he finally settled himself a little bit, he came home, he opened the door, and the place looked like a palace. It was gorgeous. Everything was so beautiful. The table was set as if for a royal event. His wife came out. His wife was dressed for the most beautiful Shabbos, as if it was the most beautiful holiday. And the food was unbelievable. And he looked around and he said, "What is this? What is this?" And his wife said, a chapter ended in our life today, and a new chapter is beginning. And I decided that what I want to do is I want to make a Thanksgiving meal to God. I want to make a thank you meal to Hashem. There's such a concept in Judaism called a Suda HaHoda'ah. I want to make a special meal to thank Hashem for the incredible husband that he gave me. I didn't get my dreams, but I do have an incredible husband. And I want to give a Thanksgiving meal to Hashem. I have no questions. I have no anything. I just want to thank Hashem. And the husband somehow caught on to her enthusiasm. And they had a wonderful night. 10 months later, Rabbi Buchner gets a call inviting him to the bris of their son,
Wow.
and to the bris of their son. And so as Haskell Shimon said, when trust in a relationship, when trust is lost in a relationship is pretty much lost. It fizzles out. But when trust remains with Hashem, even when we don't see the reason we wanted to trust, then it opens incredible doors. I'll give you another story along the same lines. This story is told by Rabbi Fishel Schachter. He is a big Rebbe, a big rabbi at Torah Vodaas, which was one of the very first, if not the very first, uh, uh, yeshiva for old, for adults, yeshiva in Brooklyn, in America. And so this story, Rabbi Fishel Schachter tells the story. There was a woman, a Holocaust survivor, and after the war, she made it to America. She got married, and 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 after 12 years of not having children, she went to, back then, can you imagine? She was a Holocaust survivor. So what kind of fertility doctors were there? Well, there were people who did something, and so she brought herself to a doctor who specialized in this on Madison Avenue. Wasn't so rich. I don't know how she collected the money for it, but she brought herself and she went on the bus to this doctor, and he looked over all her statistics, and he said to her, "Madam, don't get me wrong. I've nothing against you. Madam, give up. You are never going to have children. I looked at all your stuff. You will never have children. Go out, make a life for yourself, do something good for yourself, but don't bark and don't go down this alley anymore. It's not going to happen. I wish I could tell you something different, but don't do it. Don't invest in this anymore. It's your chances." He said, when you will have the day hair grows on my palm, that's the day you'll have a baby. So anyway, the woman left. She got back on the Madison Avenue bus, and she didn't feel like getting off the bus. She felt like she lost her whole purpose for living. She started remembering on the bus all the stuff from the Holocaust. She and her family were in some kind of location, and this is exactly my mother's story. My mother often hid this way. When the Nazis would come, they had like dug out like a grave underneath the floorboards, and if they thought the Nazis were coming, they would they would get into the little grave, put the boards over them, and hope that they weren't discovered. So the whole family would get into this dugout grave, and she volunteered, maybe because she was the smallest one, she volunteered to put the floorboards back on the top and put there was a carpet back on the top of that. And she would then go climb on top of a piece of furniture and hide under some kind of covering and hope they didn't find her. And it worked again and again and again and again, but one time it didn't work. One of the Nazis stepped on something. He felt it didn't feel right. They pulled away the carpet. They found the family, and she heard her whole family dragged away. She was the only surviving member of her family. Just a second.
Amen.
So anyway, when she survived the war, she desperately wanted to build a new family. This was her whole goal. That was her only goal. And now she had this horrible news. She just sat there on the bus. Came time that it was the end of the day. The guy's shift was over. And he says to the lady, "Listen, madam, I'm about to drive to the garage. You got to get off the bus. You just got to." And she muttered very softly, I don't have any reason to live. And he said to her, "Lady, I had a hard day." He said, "I don't know what your problems are, but," one second.
Please get off the bus.
"I don't know what your problems are, but I know Your problems are not going to be solved by sitting on the Madison Avenue bus. You got to. She got off the bus, and she talked to Hashem. She said, Hashem, that guy is right. The problems are not going to be solved by sitting on the Madison Avenue bus. She said, Hashem, you saved me so many times in the war, and you gave me another opportunity for life. You brought me to America. You gave me an opportunity for life. Life didn't turn out the way I wanted, but Hashem, it's your life, not my life. I have no right to give up on it.
Mhm.
You guide me, and whatever you want me to do, that's what I'm going to do. A year later, she had a baby.
Oh, nice.
No treatment, no nothing.
How old was she?
That baby grew up, had children. She only had one kid. He grew up, had children. His children had children, so he had grandchildren. By the time this lady passed away, she had so many great-grandchildren from that one kid that the doctor should have had hair on both palms and the soles of her.
Isn't that a nice story?
Amazing.
So Rabbi Fischel Schachter said, he says he actually knows the woman who told the story. He knows her well. She was his mother.
Was his mother?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, my.
Wow.
So anyway, was his mother. So the point of both stories is that this Elul is all about our relationship with Hashem. Our relationship with Hashem is the most important. It's like what we do in the world is hugely important, and the way to accomplish what we can do in this world is by strengthening our relationship with Hashem, and the way to do that is by learning and by leaning on God, by recognizing all the stuff that God does for us on a daily basis, which is phenomenal. And by sticking, I teach kindergarten, and I have a theme. All during kindergarten, I teach them, what we got to do? We have to stick to Hashem. That's the whole secret of life. Things want to lead you this way. Things want to lead you that way. You get disappointed and you start separating. No, you have to stick to Hashem the whole time. And that's what we have to do. We have to stick to Hashem with whatever tools that we have. And when you do it, it produces some kind of magic. When you put yourself in Hashem's hands, you open the doors to blessings that you would not otherwise have gotten. And I'm going to end there because I promised that this would be a quick session. And I want to thank everybody for coming.
Very nice.
It was a delicious session.
I loved it.
Very inspiring.
Okay,
Thank you so much for you and your beautiful husband.
Okay, good. Thank you very, very, very much. And thank you for enabling the class.
I enjoyed it very
Oh,
much.
good. I'm so happy. Thank you for enabling. We really appreciate it.
Good night.
Stop the recording first.